Hi, I'm Lance Lambert. Thanks for tuning into the Vintage Vehicle Show. We are in Los Angeles, California at the Toyota USA Automobile Museum. This is a wonderful facility and it has a lot of very old Toyotas on up to brand new. And we're going to take a close look at some of those today. And who are we going to do that with? Well, we have a special guest today. Hi, Susan.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
Welcome.
Good. Thank you. This is Susan SANBORN and she is the curator here at the museum. Susan, how did this all come about?
After the 40th anniversary of Toyota in America, we decided that we wanted to collect all of our history of Toyota in America. We had a few vintage vehicles, and so we decided to put them all together under one roof, and we've been growing ever since.
This is something that has been necessary for a long time, so why did it just kind of happen in the recent past, do you think?
I think we all are so busy that sometimes we forget to look back on our history. And Toyota is very rich in history, and therefore it was just the right time to get started. Our 50th is coming up.
Well, let's get started taking a look at the museum. Longtime viewers know that I like cars. They're just a little bit different, and you're going to see some very neat cars, and you can see a few that are very different. So let's take a look. Susan, it's my understanding that 1936 was the first year of the Toyota automobile?
Yes, 1936 we produced our first passenger car, which this classic is a replica of.
It has a very, to my eyes, a kind of an American influence. Do you think that's the case?
Yes, it does, actually, very good. The 1933 Chevy at the time, and also the Chrysler DeSoto with the airflow.
Right, yeah, I can see the airflow influence. What kind of manufacturing facility did they have then?
They actually started, because it is a family business, the Toyota family, they started building engines in the corner of the loom factory, which was their family business. The father is Sakichi Toyota, and the family name is spelled T-O-Y-O-D-A, not with the T. And he was an inventor, very good inventor, and he was able to produce an automatic loom. The loom would stop if a thread broke, because that was a quality issue with weaving cloth. From that, he was able to sell the patent to Platt Brothers in England, and from that gave us our seed money, and he handed that down to his son, Keiichiro Toyota, and he was able to start the automotive side of the business.
So that the extreme quality of Toyota automobiles can be traced back to a thread that got broken.
That's absolutely correct. Very good.
All right,
very good.
Great. And then they came to America in 58, 57?
1957 we launched in America. That was just 12 years after the end of World War II. We were selling, there was 80 car companies selling in America, so quite stiff competition. And we came in with the Toyopet Crown.
I see this is a 1959 Toyopet. So first question, is that a Japanese word, or did Toyopet, did their research department say that, oh, this is a good name to market in America?
Actually, I asked that very same question to the curator in Japan when I visited last year, and it just means Toyota's pet. It was their project in the beginning.
So pretty straightforward. And you said that they sold in 57, they sold how many?
225.
Through the whole country. So it wasn't a screaming success out of the gate.
No, unfortunately.
Yeah. And then what happened next?
Then Toyota, like they always do, looking for continuous improvement, they realized that the Toyopet was underpowered for the American consumer, and they wanted something more, so they really came back and studied the American market and other automobiles and went back to the drawing board.
What type of motor did this have at that time? What was the power plant in this?
It's a 4-cylinder, 88.7 cubic inches, 65 horsepower.
And something like this new in the States, what did it cost?
About $1,900.
So they took it off the market here, and then how did it get reintroduced?
We actually did not reintroduce this particular model. We came back in with the Tiara.
So in 1960, the Tiara was brought into the United States, is that correct?
We actually showed the Tiara at the 1960 New York Auto Show. We sold it in America from 1961 to 65, so this is our second passenger car we imported.
So the sales made up for the first attempt at the country. They started taking off.
They were a little bit better, yes.
Yeah. What do you think it was about the appeal of these cars? The obvious economy, or how do you think they were first accepted by the U.S. market?
It was really the right place, the right time, because we did have an oil shortage going on. A lot of the service people had returned. A lot of families were moving out into the suburbs, and so a smaller, more fuel-efficient car as well as a second vehicle was coming into play.
There are some beautiful cars in this museum, and some that are very exotic that you're going to see in just a little bit, but the one that tugs at my heart is this little station wagon. This thing is a sweetheart.
Isn't she beautiful? 71 Corolla Wagon.
How did it come about that one is in such good shape with this? You say you didn't restore this? This is how you got it?
No, we have not done any restoration on it. The individual that owned it, that we purchased it from, had it in this condition. We were very lucky.
There's a real simple elegance to this car and a lot of the Toyotas. Is that because their design was just kind of simple, or were they seeking out an understated elegance type of design?
I think the understated is really what they were going for.
And a lot of this, I think, was not, they were a little bit ahead of their time, I think, in that this type of beauty was sort of, it was subtle enough that it took a while for the market to go, wait a minute, these are really clean, stylish, really nicely designed cars.
Yes, and I think too, once people were driving them, they saw the quality of the vehicle, and that's really what helped to sell them.
The basic simplistic beauty of the Toyota is very obvious, but here's an example of a car that the designers, at least appears to me, they said, let's make something really classy looking. And this, to me, has the appeal of a Mercedes or a BMW. This is a beautiful car.
This is a 71 Crown, and it is beautiful. It's one of my favorites. If they said I could have any car in the collection, this would be it.
So the marketing of this, did they specifically go after the little bit of an upscale clientele on this?
They really wanted to give the idea of, here's a vehicle that is one step up from the economy car. You want a little larger car, a family car, this is it.
That's a beautiful car. And this was an automatic, what did they call it?
It has the Toyo Glide automatic transmission. It's a 6-cylinder overhead.
Is that an early inclusion of automatic transmissions, or did they go a lot farther back than that?
This one is one of the earliest ones.
And they sold, what'd you say, 4,000 of these?
Almost 4,000 in 1971.
When Susan and I were first talking about what cars we wanted to feature on the show, I said, let's keep it probably pre-1980. Well, this is a 1987. I'm breaking the rule. However, this car, I'm touching it right now. I am touching the very first Toyota ever manufactured in the United States, correct?
Correct.
This particular car.
Yes. Serial number 1. You can see it right in the window.
Yeah, it is. It's a whole bunch of zeros on there. So number 1, and you get to drive these cars.
That's correct.
And this is one you get to drive?
I have put a few miles on it. It's up to 26 miles.
26 miles. Do you get any kind of reaction when you go down the street? People just double take on what you have? Because it's pretty unusual to see these old of cars, as rare as they are, in this kind of condition.
I get all kinds of reactions. The long look, the double take, and also people actually knocking on the window wanting to talk to me. And say, what is that car?
Yeah, do they want to buy it?
Sometimes I have had offers.
So you say, just come on down to the museum and we'll
That's
talk.
right,
Okay.
yeah.
I think that the cars, the Toyotas, they were beautiful cars. They were slightly influenced by American cars, or not. They had their own designs. But with the Celica and the Celica GTs, that seemed to be where they were really starting to seek out maybe a little more of the youth market in the U.S., because they have, to my eyes, they have just a little bit of hint of Mustang to them.
That's true. That's true.
Did you find that the demographics of the buyers of the Toyotas changed at all with that? Did it start going to a younger market?
We're talking 20s and 30s.
Okay, so that's the market you're probably seeking out. Yeah.
Right.
And you came out with a fastback, came out with a coupe. The fastback, was the fastback a year later or 2 years later at the same time?
It's actually in 1977. We started designing the Celicas in 1967. The 71 model here is our first generation, and then our first liftback was the 77,
and
which is the more Mustang.
Those are beautiful cars. I've always wanted to get one and tweak it a little bit more into the hot rod venue, but they are really nice looking cars.
You're going to pull the engine, right?
Yeah. Small block Chevrolet. Ooh, did I say that? I'm sorry. We've been looking at some of these that are just basic kind of entry-level cars. We've been looking at some of these that are pretty classy. This leans towards the classy. This is really a nice looking car.
This is our 78 Cressida.
And you found this, you said, from the original owner. You managed to track him down?
Yes. The vehicle is actually sold here locally through a Toyota dealership, and the gentleman who purchased it lives about 7 miles from here, and I was able to buy it back from him.
So did you find that the Cressida, it also appealed to a little bit of an upscale market? And I know there were a ton of them around, so you must have been successful at it.
Yes, very much so. And we're talking the affluent, middle class, upper. That were buying them.
So when you went by their mansion with a 4-car garage, you had the back end of a BMW and the back end of a Porsche and the back end of a Mercedes and the back end of a
And
Cressida.
the Cressida, you're right, you're right.
Good. We have looked at a lot of absolutely gorgeous cars here. Beautiful, beautiful cars. The place is full of beautiful cars, but we are now surrounded by the prettiest cars here. 2000 GTs. These are absolutely beautiful.
These are my girls.
And these, I've never seen one up close, and 3 of them. How did they come about? How did you acquire them?
We actually, only 54 have ever been imported into the United States. Only 337 of them have ever been made.
And I understand this particular one used to belong to Twiggy?
The British model Twiggy, yes.
And I understand that some of these cars were used in the James Bond film?
There was actually 2 prototype convertibles made for the 5th James Bond movie, You Only Live Twice.
Famous movie, famous cars, and a famous person, I understand, is in our midst that knows all about these cars.
We have our very own expert on the 2000 GTs, the author of the 2000 GT history book, SHIN Yoshikawa.
How you doing?
Fine.
Great, great. Shin, I don't claim any kind of great expertise on Japanese autos and especially on Toyotas, but it looks to me like they went along for years making some fairly conservative looking cars, and then suddenly they designed this. Is that the case? And how did they come up with such a gorgeous car?
Yeah, this is a very special. They want to make the flagship, 1965, and they started this design, also technology from so many information. And this original design by Mr. Nozaki, he's a very famous designer. He designed himself. And also they found the great frame from a Lotus Elan. This is not the mass production car. This is a small production.
The market for this that they were seeking to capture, was it the gentleman who wants a sports car as a daily driver, or were they going after the racing segment of the population? What was the goal when they designed these?
This is everything included. Of course, they include racing, also daily drive. This car is a great GT car. GT car means the Gran Turismo. Of course, you can drive daily, also very comfortable.
And you mentioned that this particular model, this is kind of the basic one.
Mr. Nozaki said he have an image of like a Jaguar E-Type, or he influenced from a Jaguar E-Type or other British car, mostly British traditional design, but he made a special Toyota design for this car.
That's absolutely beautiful. So it went from this to, they got a little more sophisticated with the running gear, is that correct?
Yeah, running gear engine came from Toyota Crown. That's the biggest sedan for the Toyota with a single overhead cam with a 2-liter engine. But Yamaha made this twin cam motor based by Crown engine.
Your search for your book on these cars, did you get an idea of how many of them are still in existence?
Yeah, it was so hard because nobody knows how many they made. And finally, I found the production list from all the Yamaha people. And that's the list show up so many special word or number, and nobody know that. and I spent 2 weeks, and like I'm a James Bond, all number, what is this? And I found the total 351 production, and nobody knew that.
So you were a good detective then.
Yeah.
The exterior of the car is beautiful. The interior is every bit as beautiful.
You're right.
And this, how did they come up with this? I mean, this is so tasteful and so classy and so James Bondish.
Yeah, I told you that this car made by Yamaha, and Yamaha is a very important music instrument company. And this dashboard made by Yamaha Piano Technology. This is a rosewood and a 4 different grand rosewood press, and they made this. This is so wonderful dashboard.
So they didn't just pull a piece of wood and cut it out and go with it. They picked a particular piece of wood for each of these.
You're right.
Let's take a look at the engine compartment of one of these. 6-cylinder dual overhead cam motor. How many horsepower, how many cubic inches?
150 horsepower and 2-liter engine.
And the weight on a car like this?
This is a 1,200 kilogram.
So a lot of motor for not too much weight.
You're right.
The performance on this, what's the top end? How fast will this go?
Easy for the 210 kilometer per hour.
And miles per hour, that would be?
120.
Fast enough then.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. The maintenance on an engine like this, is it a lot of tweaking? Is it like an older British motor that you spend half your time working on it, or are these a lot more dependable engine?
This looks like a Cosworth or a British sports car with a 6-cylinder. Most the same look like. But of course, the Toyota quality is much better than British or the sports car engine. No leaking the oil, everything fine. But 1966, 67, twin cam, this engine is so hard for the U.S. market because technician or mechanic, they don't understand the twin cam great in the motor. And that's a big problem for selling in the United States.
Shin, you have written the definitive book on the history of the 2000 GT. How long did it take you to write that book?
Almost 4 years.
A lot of traveling, chasing down cars and
yeah,
information?
and that's what interesting like a game, because still I have a new story coming. And this is my life work, I believe.
Well, your life work is wonderful. I want to thank you for being on the show.
Thank you.
This is great.
Thank you so much.
Of course, an awful lot of the appeal of Toyotas are the Land Cruisers. They have been famous for their dependability and their ruggedness and just looking really cool. So what are we sitting in here?
This is a 61 Land Cruiser.
It looks an awful lot like a Jeep, so that must have been the inspiration. Or how far back does the utility of this vehicle go? Were they building something like this in World War II, or was it after that?
We were actually testing the Land Cruiser way back in 1951. And the first vehicle to reach the 6th station at Mount Fuji.
The restoration on this particular Land Cruiser is just flawless, just spotless, which leads me to the question, who does all this for you? Who does your restoration work here?
I have several people that help me depending on what their specialty is.
And they have a background in cars in general, or they focus mostly on Japanese cars?
Mostly general, and I do have some specialty areas like with the Land Cruisers, like Spectre Off-Road that helps me with the parts for the Land Cruisers, and then we do extensive research as well.
The Land Cruiser design, did it pretty much stay the same from 51 to 91 or 2001, or I know it seems to be that they're pretty similar look.
They do have a very similar look. You know, when we were testing the BJ in 1951, and then we actually launched the vehicle in 1958 in the U.S., we've sold Land Cruiser every year, and you'll see that they haven't varied very much in their looks.
And the ruggedness of these transferred over a little bit to the trucks. That's another huge part of what Toyota does. You have some fantastic trucks here. Can we take a look at those?
We sure can. There is one other thing I want to tell you, though. With the Land Cruiser, during the Korean War, the U.S. military did order about 1,000 units from Toyota, and so they were trusted back then.
And proved their mettle and
Yes.
went on to great things. Okay, let's take a look at a truck.
Okay.
The Land Cruiser, dependable, beautiful cars, really like them, and that led into, am I correct, into the production of some pretty heavy-duty trucks.
That's correct. And we brought the Stout truck.
Aptly named.
Right.
The history on this particular one, or the Stouts in general?
The Stout, we first entered in 1964. And then this one actually is in 1967. We purchased this one from an individual in Arizona.
The market for these, when they were first introduced in the U.S., was it farmers or somebody looking for a light-duty truck, or who were buying these?
The Japanese landscapers actually helped to
appropriate.
get our trucks on the map here.
One of the things I've noticed about old Toyotas, you don't see that many old Toyotas, but you do see an awful lot of old trucks, and they obviously have been used heavily, but they're out there still plugging away, doing what they were designed to do.
That's correct. And you know, after we had the Stout truck, we followed up with the Hilux truck, and then the long bed truck, and then into the SR5, and then the more current models.
They're beautiful, but out in front of the building here, there's something that I saw that's pretty neat. Can we go take a look at that?
Yes, we can.
All right. Susan Sanborn, thank you so much for your invitation to the Toyota USA Automobile Museum. It is a beautiful facility. You have been such a gracious host. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
If somebody wants to come see the collection, what do they need to do? How do they go about it?
All they need to do is give me a call and we'll set up a time for a special tour.
Okay, and if you look at the screen right about here, or here, is the address, phone number, and website address for the museum. So give her a call, come on out and take a look. Susan, thank you very much. And I'm going to hit the road in this 2000 GT here. Okay, thank you. Come on, Yoshi, let's go for a ride. Bye, Susan.